This is Day to Day Knits, and my name is Caidree Robinson. I think this is episode 51. I already did the Portuguese one, so now my voice is not so good. But I hope you still get to enjoy it. I think the last one that I made was in May, and I intend on doing another one in June, or maybe beginning of July. But it didn't work out. I had a trip to Madeira, where my mother's side of the family is from. And then after that, school and work, and it just didn't come to be. And now it's 2 months later. So I have a lot to talk about, but I decided to split it into at least 2 different episodes. This one specifically about summer knitting, and the next one just preparing for fall, the change in the seasons, etc. And I think that's it. And that's it. Yeah. This is the Leela top by Caidree, C-A-I-D-R-E-E. This one I did using 2 different yarns. Shibui knits Pebble and Canary, which is this one. It's a very light yellow, and I know it has cotton in it. I just cannot remember if it's 100% cotton or if it has like linen or silk or something else in it. It's not super shiny though. It is very thin. And then I used another one that I don't have here with me because I'm actually using the leftovers on a different project. And that one is Knit Picks Curio number 10, and that is a very, mercerized. I think that's the word. I was trying to think of this word in the Portuguese one, but it's, I think, mercerized cotton, which makes it very shiny and drapey. And that one is also a lace yarn, just like this one. I could have used, I think I had 2 skeins of this. I thought I only had 2, but I think I had 3. And I could have just used this together. It would have turned out in a lighter color, as you can see, because the other one is a more like golden, ochre, mustardy type of yellow, even though they're both called Canary. But you know, they're different brands, different bases, etc. So obviously they're different. But I think I ended up with a good in-between color between this and mustard. Yes. But it is, the other one is 100% cotton, which is why for this project, even though I did not swatch as usual, I decided to go with size number 3. I thought, you know, cotton is not super stretchy, so I don't want to like accidentally make it impossible for me to put this top on, because that has happened to me in a different project that was a bottom up, and I did not figure out until the end that it wouldn't pass my shoulders. So now it's a dress for a girl at some point if I ever have a daughter. Yes, so back to this one. So I decided to go with size 3. I eventually, after I was already wearing it, I figured out that that was too big, because if I bent over, this part of the fabric would be further out, and I was just uncomfortable with that. That's not the case for everyone, but that happened to me. So what I decided was, after I experienced that, I decided to, while I was on my trip, stitch together the sides. So where I had previously added several stitches per the pattern, I removed some of the fabric caused by those extra stitches. I didn't remove all of it, but just enough that it became like a more normal fit. So that's, I guess, change number 1. This project is knit top down, and the front and the back are exactly the same, and they're knit flat. and then you put them together at the very end with I-cords by picking up the I-cord that you have created on both sides. I think the other change I might have made was, I think I knitted it a little longer so I could tuck it in if I had a high waist, short skirt, pants, etc. But if I was wearing something with a more normal waist, it's just enough that it will cover for sure the button. And I'm gonna get up so you guys can see the fabric, but also see how long I actually made it. So the fabric is just a tad see-through because it is cotton, so the stitches don't expand. And I did it, I can feel the fabric up to here. So this is high waist, this is your average waist would sit here. So I just did it long enough. Yeah, and I really like this top. Something I did was, because of the sheerness of the fabric, since it is cotton and there's no wool, I don't think, of any kind in either one of the yarns, to plump up the stitches, I ordered online the pads that like bras have and such, and bikinis, sports bras, etc. And I stitched them inside. I wish they had a A cup, but they didn't, so I got a B cup. I have lessons learned from that. You can tell, like, maybe if I'm facing this way you can't, but if I face this way, you can definitely see where I stitched them up. Because these pads, even though they feel like nothing in your hands, at least with this yarn, it's just heavy enough that it will pull the yarn down just a little bit, and it just creates these like the little dips. So what I want to try next time is, instead of just stitching the top of it in a specific single area, what I want to do is I want to go between two columns of stitches with possibly my sewing machine, after I have like pinned them where I want them, and I'm just gonna go on the sides up and maybe just another part here, but with more stitches, hopefully to just make it look like it blends in more, especially if I get the fabric that's even more noticeable, like any wrinkle, etc., than this one. Which leads me to the next project. It is through the front. You might tell it's similar. It's like the same pattern, but I did not do these ridges that the pattern calls for. I wanted something plain, but then I wanted something completely different at the back. So this one, the front and the back are exactly the same, but this one, they're very different. What I did was, instead of leaving the I-cord for the end, I picked up the I-cord from the front. I went over the shoulders, and then I followed the same stitches, and all of this is in my Ravelry notes if you want to see, to just have a better idea. But I kept going with the I-cord on this side, increasing the stitches, I think exactly as this one, which is like you don't increase until you get down here. But for the back itself, instead of knitting across, what I did was I created a double, I think it's called like a double knit or double stitch area that is much stronger and doesn't stretch out at all. And I just kept increasing pretty regularly at the back. And then right on the center, one of my friends gave me these vintage buttons, and I thought, you know, this would be such a cute pattern that I could just add some buttons at the back. And I'll get closer so you can see that, but you can see how uneven my stitches are in this one. This one calls for, not calls for, but I decided to do a different yarn. A yarn that I had bought originally to make a scarf to wear in the summer if I'm riding like with my windows open. And this is Bamboo Pop. The color is Lily Pad, and it's 50% bamboo, 50% cotton. So it's, you can tell like this and this are the marks from where I had it drying on the drying rack. You can tell like anything that happens will show at in a specific light. Any issue is going to be very noticeable. It's very drapey. Yeah, so I'll get closer and you can see that. I had intended initially to make buttonholes, but then I decided I'm just gonna sew these buttons on. I'm not gonna need this to put it on and off. I'm never gonna need to open the back. So I decided to just stitch them on. And you can see how open the fabric is, how low I went. This would probably, if I was wearing a bra, it would probably show the closure of the closure. I don't know if that's right. But when you close the bra at the back, you'd probably see that. So this one is when I'm going to try and do that with the pads. See if it will work. This one I also knit in a number 2 after I realized that this one was too big. And I had not have to, I've tried it on and I don't have to stitch the sides. And then I have 2 more projects that on the last video I either hinted that they were going to happen, or you could already see, especially with the next one, how advanced I was then. This is the Plenilune with a couple of alterations, and it is by Alicia Plummer. The yarn itself is a Camellia Fiber Company yarn that I tried on before it was available for sale, and I think it was available maybe for a limited time in this type, because this colorway was also sold for a limited time, and you can see more about that in the other video. It's called Peach Ranunculous. Yes, Peach Ranunculous. And there's just a little bit of pulling at the top. I'm not sure you can see it. I think you can, but yeah. The pattern itself, oh, and because this is Boucle, it's hard for me to tell at first when it's inside out. When it's on the right side, I can tell it's on the right side, but when it's inside out, I'm like, I am not sure. Let me just turn this and see if it makes more sense that way. And the reason I can tell best is just because where the cables happen, it's easier to tell if it's the right side or not. But I'm still thinking of adding a tag or something that will give me a clue, like tie a little bow, I don't know. Yes, very drapey. A little open too. This one I have to wear with something underneath, but it is a warmer fabric. I think it has some sort of wool or alpaca, like merino maybe, and a lot of silk. So it's very, very shiny, and it has a beautiful drape, as you can see. Unfortunately, this stretches it out, but I think you can tell it's a t-shirt. Looks like I have to tuck this in. Yes, so alterations I did. This starts with a short rose without the front being together. And I love the short rows. They worked out really well. But then when you're supposed to join in the front, and the size I was doing, which it might have been the smallest, but I can't remember. Silly me. I missed like a paragraph or a sentence. I missed something. And I did not add the stitches it wanted me to add in the front. So I was initially worried. It was a concern. I wasn't really worried. Like, I would not have done anything about it. But looking at the design, it's a little open neck shirt, and I wanted something closer together. So when I first noticed I had made the mistake, I was like, uh-oh, can I even wear this? Will it go over my head? It did. And then I noticed it lands just about where the necklace is, maybe just a little low. So it works out great. It's really like, in a way, modest, or yeah, it doesn't show, you know, as much as this one shows, even though this, you know, it's, I would feel okay wearing this to church if I had the jacket on for my shoulders. Yes, but it fits, it works. Actually, I think I like it more like this than the original design, just for my preferences. And then the other thing is, this one, you can see it has these like ridges. That also happens in this one, but for like longer periods. And I decided not to do that. I wanted something more simple, that would blend in more with like a blazer or something, instead of looking more casual. So I just wanted something that I could probably wear more frequently, like at work and such. Yeah, and I'm pretty happy with it. I'm gonna get closer so you can see how open the fabric is as well. I also did not swatch. Yeah, but it's fine. It's fine. You can see my, maybe you can see my hand. Oh, there you go. Yes. Now, when I went to Portugal, to Madeira, usually when we go, we hike a lot and we get to the beach a lot. This time we spent, well, I had to do some schoolwork. Joseph had to do a little work, so we did not hike as much. We only did one big hike, and the rest of the time was beach and eating and drinking, which is very strange. I think it's the first trip we do where we're not constantly walking. It was just so delicious, and it was interesting just how different it is, or it was, from the usual trips and what I was expecting us to do while we were there. So just different experience. But we did one big hike. It was a 6-hour hike, which we never do anything that long, and this was only one way.
Portanto, estamos a ir do Funchal até ao Pico do Arieiro e só passou 1 quilómetro e já estamos cansados.
It was me, Joseph, and my brother. So we started the hike at my grandmother's house, which is not at sea level, it's just a little bit above that. And then it was just going up for 6 hours straight, always hiking up till we got to the second highest peak in the island. Yep. So this hike, it was great. We were supposed to start at 6 a.m. The point was to get there before lunch so that then my parents could come and pick us up and we could go somewhere for lunch, maybe by the beach, and then go to the beach. But we started a little earlier, no, a little later. I think either at 6:30 or 6:45. 1 hour after that, we were already above the clouds, and then we had 5 more hours to go.
Alvo avistado. Estamos quase lá. São mais 6 km. Tempo do almoço.
But we were always, until the last hour, We were always protected from the sun by the trees. So we were okay, but that last hour was enough for me to get a little sunburn. Yes, but it was great. It was great. I would now, looking back, I'm like, I'll do this again. We're also testing out some new equipment. We had new hiking boots and we had the walking sticks. Walking sticks are so worth it. But gosh, it was so good. And lunch afterwards was amazing. We went to this place that was on the way up. It's called Abrigo do Pastor. It's traditional food, and it was so good. It was all really great. And then the view at the top, it was nice. It wasn't very cloudy. It was good. I do have one more finished object to talk about. This is the Baltian, and I can put it on momentarily for you. This is by Caitlin Hunter. I had already started this one on the last video. It was just hard to see because it was on my needles. But this one, and I put an elastic at the top because, again, I did not swatch. I just cast it on. As you can see, it can stretch out a lot. And this one, so for the part up here, I used Shibui Knits Breathe in Ivory. Not for sale anymore. Shibui Knits does not sell yarn anymore as far as I know. And then the rest is Moondrake Company, a mix of Bubble and Kid Mohair. And the colorway is Juicy Fruits, and I had to buy these as a set. I'll get closer so you can see, but let me just explain the pattern a little bit. It's knit top down and around until you get to the arms. Then you split for the front and back, because it's basically knit as a trapezoid shape. And then you start decreasing again. The original pattern does not look, I mean, it has the same shape, but it's much smaller because my gauge is off in this one. But this is like a capelet in this case, so it doesn't matter. And it has, it's like one color with colorwork feathers. And I did make that one in the past. I talked about it, I think it was last year in May, maybe. And I do want to knit it again. I lost that top. I have no idea where it is. I think I wore it on that trip, and then I might have left it there. I've reached out to the Airbnb. They don't know anything about it. So I'm guessing, you know, someone found it and they took it home, and I hope they washed it properly and that they are enjoying it. But I am willing to knit another one. Although the colorwork, I remember thinking, gosh, this is never gonna end. And it's all fingering. And the fabric, it only keeps getting bigger. But I really liked it, and I will do it again, which is not something I would say about all projects I have knit. Changes to this model. I did something, again, the gauge is off, but the other one and this one have something in common, which is the other one I stopped right where it asked me to stop, which was at the elbow. And then I was supposed to knit a small sleeve with ribbing, and I did not want to have all that fabric on my elbow, so I didn't do it then, and I had a fine time with that, so I decided not to do it again on this one. I also don't think it would have worked well because, again, with the gauge and the choice of yarn in this case, because the other one was 100% wool, this one is not. The other one followed the pattern at the back at the end, where it has the option of adding short rows, which I did, and I like them. But in this one, doing short rows means I have to pick one of the two yarns. One of them is very colorful, one of them is white. And you can see at the top when I show you that I picked the white, but with my hair you cannot tell that the short rows are happening because my hair covers it. And at the back it would be very much visible. And since this is already bigger than Sorry, talking too much for a really long time. Since this one is already bigger because my gauge is off, I didn't feel the need to add those short rows to the back. I'll get closer, you can see the pattern. It might look like I have bobbles in this design, but it's just a yarn. But it was a good knit to take to the airport. I think I'll do that again next time I get on an airplane, which will be, I think, in October. Yes. This one really looks like a capelet, where the other one looks more like a top. Still a top with the bat wings, but a top. But this one, my gauge is off by so much that it feels and looks more like a capelet, which I am totally okay with it because that was the intention anyway. So everything worked out. I think that's it. Those are all the projects I had prepared for the summer. The next video, I think I'll probably get started on it in 2 weeks. And then you'll see it sometime after that. I think I will only show maybe a couple of projects, maybe 2 finished projects. And I don't know if I'll show a whip. It will depend on how deep I am in it. I did knit a swatch for one, and I started another one. But I'm just so early on right now that you can't really tell what is happening. So it depends on how far along I am on that one to see if it's worth it to bring it up or not. Yeah, and that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any like pieces that you've done for the summer that are really for hot weather, because here in Tennessee we've been experiencing a hot summer where it's 6 a.m. It is already 25 Celsius. I have no idea how much that is in Fahrenheit. And it can go up to 35 12 hours later, and it just never gets any colder than that. So it's always really hot, and 100% wool and linen are really the best things to wear, whether they're sewn or knit, especially if they have a little open gauge. So that any breeze at all, which here you don't get much, you can at least feel, and it doesn't feel like the hot and humid air is just trapped under your clothes. Anyway, so if you do have some preferred knits that you've done using like 100% vegetable matters that you'd like to share, you like, you know, knitting and wearing, etc., and you're just overall happy with it, feel free to share. I would be interested in what those are, trying to think about the coming year, but also I think other people will too. It's always a conundrum because most projects are done with some sort of wool content in mind, and that just doesn't work for everyone everywhere. Yeah, all right. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment. I really appreciate it all. So just know it will make my day a little better. And that's it. I will hopefully see you, or you'll see me in 2 weeks or so. Bye.